The open road, a symbol of freedom, a ribbon of asphalt stretching to the horizon, promising adventure. But some journeys, some roads are best left untraveled, because they lead not to adventure but to something far more sinister. Something that lurks in the shadows, waiting to claim unsuspecting souls. This is one such road. A road where fear hangs in the air, where silence whispers secrets best left unheard. A road that winds through forgotten landscapes, echoing with the ghosts of times past. Do you dare to proceed? Dare to? Route 666. They call it the Devil's Highway. A deserted stretch of asphalt cutting through the darkness. Locals tell stories of missing travelers, ghostly spirits, and evil clinging to this cursed road. But tonight, one man dares to challenge the darkness. One man, alone in his truck, unaware of the horror that awaits. He drives deeper into the darkness, the rumble of his engine the only sound in the oppressive silence. He doesn't know he's not alone. His name is Arjun, a man who has hauled goods across the country for years, a man who thought he'd seen it all. But tonight, he's going to face a terror he never imagined. A terror that will test the limits of his understanding. He drives on, mile markers ticking by like seconds on a time bomb. Every curve in the road, every passing shadow sends a shiver down his spine. He can feel it now, a presence. Someone is watching him, toying with him, and it's getting closer. The first hour on Route 666 passed like any other. It was a long, dark road with no lights for miles. Arjun drove on, guided only by his truck's headlights, feeling like he was entering an unknown world. The engine hummed, the tires sang their monotonous tune on the asphalt. The sounds of the truck and the silence of the road created a strange music that echoed in Arjun's ears. Arjun focused on the road, pushing aside the unsettling stories he'd heard about this cursed highway. He tried to keep his mind calm, but every time he thought about those stories, his heart would race. He told himself they were just stories, nothing more. But the stories had a deep impact on his mind. He reasoned with himself that it was just his imagination, but his heart refused to believe it. He tried to find comfort in the radio, but only static met his ears. Every time he tuned to a station, all he heard was noise. This noise only increased his unease. On every station, every frequency, there was that dreadful silence. This silence shook him to the core. He turned off the radio and lost himself in his thoughts. He tried not to read too much into it, but the anxiety tightened in his stomach like a knot. He felt like something was wrong, but he couldn't understand what. Even the usually comforting hum of his engine stuttered, its rhythm slightly off. This change worried him even more. He slowed the truck down and listened carefully to the engine, but he couldn't figure anything out. He looked up at the sky where the stars were shining. The sight calmed him for a moment. He took a deep breath and told himself that everything was all right. But his unease still lingered. He looked at his map and confirmed his position on Route 666. This road had always scared him, but tonight was different. He felt like he was under the control of some unseen force. He gripped the steering wheel tightly and decided to move forward. He told himself that he would not let this fear control him. He knew he had to cross this road no matter what. The truck moved forward, cutting through the darkness. Arjun tried to leave his fear behind and focused on his goal. This first hour was like a test for him, and he wanted to succeed. The wind picked up, howling like a banshee through the desolate landscape. It buffeted the truck, rattling the windows and rocking the vehicle. Arjun gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes scanning the roadside, searching for the source of the sudden violent gusts. Whispers drifted on the wind, low and indistinct, worming their way into his consciousness. He couldn't make out the words, but the tone sent a chill down his spine. A cold dread settled in his heart. The whispers insinuating that he wasn't alone, that something was out there watching him from the shadows. Then amidst the swirling dust and shadows he saw it, a light, a lone flickering point in the distance, like a beacon in the oppressive darkness. Relief washed over him, maybe a town, a gas station, some sign of civilization. Hope, a dangerous flicker in the face of the unknown, began to bloom in his chest. As he drove, the light seemed to dance, advancing and retreating, playing a cruel game with his tired eyes. The rhythm of its flicker was unnatural, almost hypnotic. He tried to focus, to make sense of it, but the light seemed to bend and distort the very fabric of the night. It seemed to bend and distort the very fabric of the night. The truck continued for miles, its engine roaring its defiance against the oppressive silence of the night. The flickering light grew larger, transforming itself into a distinct form. A silhouette formed by an unnatural glow, a figure stood in the middle of the road. Was it a person, a helpless soul trapped on this cursed highway? Arjun slammed on the brakes, the truck stopping just feet away from the figure. But as the vehicle stopped, the light vanished. Darkness swallowed the figure whole, leaving Arjun staring at nothing but the empty road. Did he imagine it? A trick of the light, a hallucination of his tired mind? Doubt gnawed at him. He should keep driving, leave this place behind. But something held him back. A morbid curiosity, perhaps, or maybe a flicker of compassion for a fellow traveler stranded in this desolate place. He reached for the door handle, his stomach churning with a growing dread. The door creaked open, the sound like nails scraping on a chalkboard. He leaned out, peering into the darkness, his heart pounding. Hello? His voice was dry and raspy, swallowed by the wind. There was no answer, only the constant whine of the wind and from a distance the mournful howl of a coyote. A cold fear, like he'd never felt before, gripped him. The air around him felt cold, heavy. The hairs on his neck stood on end, and a shiver ran down his spine. He'd been alone on the road before, but he'd never felt so isolated, so vulnerable. He fumbled for the ignition, desperate to get away from this place, but the engine refused to start. He tried again and again, the starter motor groaning in protest, but not catching. The headlights flickered and died, plunging the cab into darkness. He was trapped. As if born from his fear, a thick fog descended, swirling around the truck, tendrils of fog creeping in through the open window. The world outside dissolved into an opaque white void. Shapes moved within the fog, indistinct forms that twisted and turned, their nature impossible to understand. The whispers returned, closer now, as if emanating from the fog itself. He could almost make out the words, threats uttered in a language that chilled him to the bone. He was no longer alone, he was surrounded. He closed his eyes, his heart threatening to burst from his chest. This was no ordinary fog, this was something else, something evil. Panic gripped Arjun. His breaths came in ragged gasps, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. He had to escape, fog or no fog. The fog blurred his vision, but his intent was crystal clear. He slammed the truck into gear, the engine roaring back to life. The sound of the engine offered a small comfort, a tiny spark of courage. As he slammed his foot on the accelerator, his eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Something was wrong, something that shouldn't be there. A face stared back at him. The face was blurry, but the eyes were clear, piercing, like they were looking into his soul. Not his own, but something else, something monstrous. The face was distorted like something out of a nightmare, pale, gaunt, with eyes that burned with an unnatural light. There was a strange glow in those eyes, a glow that sent shivers down Arjun's spine. A scream caught in his throat as the figure lunged, the scream trapped in his windpipe. He couldn't move, his body frozen in terror. Its hand reached out of the mirror, fingers long and skeletal, reaching for him. Arjun squeezed his eyes shut, but the image was burned into his mind. Arjun jerked the steering wheel, his grip so tight his knuckles turned white. He had to get away from that horrifying sight. The truck swerved dangerously on the fog-covered road. Arjun wrestled with the wheel, but the truck was slipping from his control. He didn't know what it was, but his gut told him it was something truly evil. He didn't know what to do, but he knew he had to get away. He had to escape this place as fast as he could. The truck picked up speed, and Arjun risked one last glance back, but the face was gone. Adrenaline surged through Arjun, overpowering his fear. His heart pounded faster, each beat fueling his courage. His eyes were fixed on the road, but 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. He pushed the truck harder, the engine screaming in protest as it raced through the fog. The truck's speed increased, and with it, Arjun's confidence. The road ahead remained invisible, each curve a gamble, each straight stretch a leap into the unknown. The fog had swallowed everything, and Arjun had to be cautious with every move. He could feel the presence behind him, its evil seeping into the metal of the truck. Cold sweat trickled down his back, his heart pounding in his chest. Through the swirling mist, he caught a glimpse of it, a shadow, a dark silhouette emerging from the fog. Arjun's eyes widened, and he pressed harder on the gas pedal. 2 points of light, like evil eyes, burned through the fog, bearing down on him. Those headlights cutting through the fog filled Arjun with both fear and excitement. Their light pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, reflecting on the road ahead, urging him forward, deeper into the heart of the nightmare. Every moment, every heartbeat compelled Arjun to push faster. Determination filled his eyes, strength gripped his hands. He knew he couldn't stop. He had to make it through this darkness and fog. The speedometer needle climbed, and with it Arjun's confidence. He knew he had to maintain this speed no matter what. His eyes were glued to the road, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. He knew he had to face this challenge, and he had to win. A shape emerged from the fog, too late for Arjun to react. He slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The truck, a screaming metal beast, collided with the unseen obstacle. Metal shrieked, glass shattered, and the world spun violently. Then darkness. Only the hiss of the dying engine and the mournful sigh of the wind remained. The smell of gasoline and burnt rubber filled the air. The fog began to lift, revealing the twisted wreckage of the truck, its headlights casting long, distorted shadows on the road. But what happened to Arjun? What awaited him inside that tangled tomb of metal? The first hint of dawn, a sliver of light on the horizon, piercing through the dissipating fog. The world outside the truck was a scene of devastation. Twisted metal gleamed in the cold, unforgiving light. An unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the dripping fluids from the truck's ruptured engine. The driver's side door hung open, agape like a broken jaw. A lone, bloody handprint stained the crumpled metal, a chilling testament to the violence of the crash. But where was Arjun? Had he survived the impact, or had the horrors of Route 666 claimed him as their own? Inside the cab, it was total chaos. The steering wheel was bent, a mockery of its intended purpose. The windshield, once offering a view of the open road, was now a broken mosaic reflecting the pale sky, a blood-stained, deflated airbag, a grim reminder of the force of impact. But the driver's seat was empty. A worn photograph lay on the dashboard, shaken loose from the glove compartment by the crash. It showed Arjun, his face younger, less tired, and a woman, her smile radiant, a poignant reminder of a life lived now on this cursed highway. But it offered no clues to Arjun's fate. Bathed in the soft light of a new day, Route 666 looked deceptively peaceful. The fog had retreated, swallowed by the approaching dawn, leaving behind the unsettling silence of the desolate landscape. The road, however, remained, a scar on the face of the earth, forever whispering its tales of dread and despair. A weathered signpost stood a short distance from the wreckage, a silent warning to anyone foolish enough to tempt fate. Route 666, next 100 miles, it proclaimed, the words stark against the pale sky. Below, a message scrawled in what looked like dried blood. Turn back while you still can. Arjun's fate remains a mystery, lost to the dark secrets of Route 666. Did he escape the highway's evil clutches or become another victim claimed by its shadows? The road keeps its secrets close, a chilling reminder that some journeys are best left untaken. But the road is calling. Will you heed its call? If you dare to delve deeper into the heart of darkness, if you crave more tales of terror and mystery, then subscribe to our channel. Like this video and hit the notification bell to join us on our journey into the unknown.